And welcome to another episode of the Michigan Sports Truth Podcast. I'm Taylor Phillips. He's Ed Smith. The Lions win another playoff, finally win a playoff game. They finally win a playoff game. We'll talk about that, plus who stays and who declares for the NFL draft, who stays at Michigan, some Jim Harbaugh interview rumors, including the Chargers and Falcons, the Red Wings, and Amazon agreeing with Bally Sports and the Lions. And we go back to the Lions preparing for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in the NFC Divisional Playoff game Sunday at 3 at Ford Field. But first off, again, the Lions, they win a playoff game for the first time since January 5th, 1992. They beat the Los Angeles Rams, including Matthew Stafford, by the hair of the chinny chin chin, 24-23. Just one lousy point. We predicted by 2 last episode. They win by 1. There was a slugfest offensively in the first half. Second half, both defenses stepped up. So, Ed, what do you think?
Man, there's so much to unpack and so much to unwind in regards to this game right here. Like you said, Taylor, it was the first playoff victory for the Lions since that day, January 5th, 1992. That was the tail end of that magical 1991 season where up until that point, or on this point rather, that was the only time where the Lions have won 12 games in the season. Fast forward to this year, fast forward to this season, the Lions won 12 games in the season. And of what? They topped it off at the moment, a division title and a playoff win at home. Now, there was multiple things that went into this. First and foremost, you got to remember this was the very first playoff game ever in Ford Field history. Like, this building has been in existence for 22, 23 years now. This was the very first playoff game ever in its existence. And the atmosphere was felt throughout the entire night at the building. I believe the commissioner was there as well. And frankly, from the fact that there was at one point a decibel record almost set for sure for Ford Field, in terms of it being the loudest it had ever been. At one point, I think the decibel level had been at crossing to the 130 range. So that tells you how loud and how lively and how electric that crowd was. And frankly, I think it played a big part in helping the team out because let's not forget, the Rams had to burn 2 timeouts in that second half early. One of those, I believe, had to prevent a delayed game because of how loud and how effective the crowd had been. And frankly, if you're the Rams, you're kind of sick to yourselves right now because what? You needed those timeouts at the end of the game when the Lions were able to run out the clock. So kudos to the fans at Ford Field because I frankly, without them bringing the noise, that wouldn't have happened. So frankly, all that together wrapped up what had to be considered the experience of a lifetime. Now, as terms of the storylines for this game, obviously we knew of the Matthew Stafford angle in regards of the build-up narrative of this game. But let's not forget of Jared Goff. He was the one that was deemed not good enough for the Rams. He was the one that was essentially left for dead, stranded by the Rams, if you want to say, by getting exchanged for Matthew Stafford. And you saw what the Rams did immediately with Stafford. And for it to all come full circle in a way to where, hey, the Rams are trying to go for another Super Bowl. And yes, it is Matthew Stafford standing in the way, ironically, of what this team was trying to accomplish. But it was also meant a whole lot for Jared Goff as well, considering the fact of how publicized it was that Sean McVay wanted to get Matthew Stafford here, and that in terms of how that whole deal went down. So knowing how it came around to this, and frankly, the performance that Jared Goff had, I believe it was only 22 of 27. That's only 5 incompletions the entire game, 0 turnovers. Of course, that key touchdown in the first half, wherever. And then this is another big number, 121 passer rating. And when you combine the fact that this was an offensive line that is healthy, and it was fully 100%, and it's in front of a home crowd, frankly, that's going to give you a recipe for success. And as long as Jared Goff didn't turn the ball over, which is what we saw here in this one, no turnovers, the Lions are going to be very hard to beat. Another element of storyline was, we could talk about Matthew Stafford because that was the big elephant in the room for this one. I think leading up to this one, and certainly in the minutes and moments before kickoff, when you heard the boos really come in, Stafford really did a tremendous job, I felt, in embracing that villain role, because he had mentioned that in the lead up to this game about he had to be the bad guy in this situation. And if you heard footage of him when he was mic'd up for this game, he was relishing in hearing those boos because he knew what he was there to do. It was business. It was nothing personal, and frankly, that was basically the message or the theme of how that defense treated him, especially in that second half. Because let's be honest, Taylor, Stafford took a hell of a beating. He got the crap kicked out of him in this game, between the fact that he was already dealing with a hand injury coming into this, and he got his hand busted up again. He was also dealing with the fact that at one point he may have been dealing with either a rib injury or a shoulder injury, but for sure one of those two, because there was at one point he took a big hit, a combined hit, I should say, from both Aiden Hutchinson and Aleem McNeil, where at one point, I swear, if you look at that replay, the way Stafford, his eyes were just glazed over, it looked like for just a split second he was knocked out cold. So the fact that he was able to carry on through that punishment, it's not a surprise to me, because I've seen him do that for 12 years here.
Mm-hmm.
Take punishment, take the big hits, get right back up, and keep going and try to will his team to victory. And that's exactly what he did. That's why you saw him put up 367 yards, having the 2 touchdowns, having that big getting Puka Nacua involved, the big rookie. When frankly having one of the most impressive receiving postseason debuts you'll ever see. Nacua had about 180 yards and a touchdown. He was, frankly, one of those expected big-time performers for the Rams, and frankly, he did not disappoint. So I think it should be even a bigger testament to how well this defense. And I know people want to chastise and mock and poke fun of this defense, but the facts are the facts. This defense, in terms of what they did in the red zone, standing tall, forcing the Rams to field goals instead of touchdowns, that was the difference. That was the reason why y'all won this game right then and there in terms of score differential and momentum. And, that was just one of many several elements into what went into this game.
Yeah. 277 passing yards on a touchdown pass to Sam Laporta, who did very well. Did play very well.
Yeah.
Through that knee injury that he suffered in week 18 at home against the Minnesota Vikings.
And if you're Dan Campbell, that's one example of one of your gambles paying off between the fact that, the decision to play the starters in week 18 against the Vikings, did not completely backfire, because yes, Laporta got hurt, but he was still able enough to give it a go, and you saw how much of a big key contributor he was in this game. And I mentioned Dan Campbell going to his gambling ways. Well, this is what we saw in this one, for sure. We definitely saw elements of Dan Campbell going Dan Gamble, whether it was that 4th down call near the goal, near the end zone, which led to the Laporta touchdown, whether it was the fact that, by the way, speaking of Laporta, he made a crucial catch on 3rd down to get enough yards needed for the Lions to even consider trying a very long field goal. But guess what? Batchley got the trust. He got the go. He got the call. And guess what? He made it count. He made the kick. And guess what? Those
54 yards.
Those points, though, proved to be very crucial and very big in terms of what we needed. So we didn't see too much reckless decision making from Dan Campbell. We saw him go for it on 4th down when it was necessary. We saw him decide to take the points when it was necessary. And guess what? When in the game, when everything was on the line, he trusted Jared Goff. Think about that. And again, when I mentioned about everything being full circle of how, Jared Goff was not deemed as good enough for the Rams, well, Dan Campbell mentioned in the post game locker room speech when he was giving out the game ball, Jared Goff was damn sure good enough for Detroit, because between him getting the ball to Josh Reynolds, who for early on in this game looked like it was going to be the Josh Reynolds revenge game, between making sure that he got Laporta involved, between making sure that, of course, Amon-Ra St. Brown was going to get involved with his 7 catches and 110 yards. And by the way, the fact that he was officially named as a first-team All-Pro and yet did not make the Pro Bowl, completely laughable. But Goff also got Jameson Williams involved. Between all of that, Goff was given the ultimate trust call by Dan Campbell to say, hey, I believe in you. You're going to make this throw. You're going to make this play, and we're going to get this first down and win this game. And that's exactly what happened. And guess who he got it to? Amon-Ra St. Brown, the guy who made the touchdown catch to beat the Vikings to give Dan Campbell his very first win as Detroit's coach in 2021, was the very one who made this catch to seal the victory that gave them their very first playoff win since 1992. And by the way, you can no longer say it. It's no longer one playoff win since 1957. Thank the good Lord.
It's 2 playoff wins in 57 years, hashtag by Jeff Moss on X at Jeff Moss DSR, a former creator of the Detroit Sports Rag, by the way. Amon-Ra St. Brown, 7 catches for 110 yards, including the final one for the first down to clinch the Lions' first playoff win since January 5th of 1992. And third, let's get to that 3rd and 14 play.
Oh yeah.
There was
First and foremost, we gotta talk about what set that up, because remember, it was a 3rd and 4 originally, and the Lions had gotten to stop. They've been forced an incomplete pass, I believe, but because of that, on that play, Hutchinson got held tremendously. Otherwise, he would have gotten to Stafford on a sack, big time. So they decided to take that penalty yardage, and guess what? That eventually proved to be another smart decision that worked out for Dan Campbell, because on that 3rd and 14, which again, we'll get to some of the controversy about that, but because of that stop happening, that forced the Rams, instead of trying to go for the field goal, they decided to punt instead, and that was the last time they held the ball. But in terms of that 3rd and 14 specifically, people want to talk about the fact, though, Nakua's jersey got held. There should have been interference. I would grant you the fact that, yes, Puka's jersey did get tugged. It did get held.
Behind by Cam Sutton.
Yes, it was. And frankly, in any other situation, any other year, any other opponent, and more likely should have been a flag, and I'd be lockstep in agreement with them. However, knowing the history of how many times the Lions have gotten screwed over, whether by a bad call or a bad penalty or a weird rule.
False start on Taylor Decker.
Exactly. The false start. We just went through this earlier in the game, which once again, poor Taylor Decker. First, the reporting for
only Taylor Decker.
Right. The reporting for eligibility gate, and now this. You just can't catch a break. But at least he's getting the win, thank goodness. So
yeah, gotta have thicker skin, gotta keep playing no matter what.
Exactly. You got to find a way to
still
keep
another
up,
half to play too.
Which was another example of how this was not the same old Lions, which you can finally put a death nail to that term once and for all, because this was another example of how this is no longer the same old Lions. And frankly, I mentioned the defense. I can't mention them enough, because between Aiden Hutchinson doing the job that he did, which, by the way, 2 sacks for Hutch in this game, which means another game, 3rd in a row with at least 2 sacks or so.
I know that's impressive. And it seems keeps racking them up.
Big game Hutch. It's big game Hutch. When you're noticing in these big games and big moments, Aiden Hutchinson has been stepping up time and time again for the Lions, going back to the game season last year against Green Bay. You saw how he did in prime time in that one. Now you're seeing what he's doing in prime time with this one. So, frankly, it's when you need your best players to step up most. You can always call it timely. You can call it whatever, but when your best players are stepping up for you, you can always appreciate when they step up.
Yeah, everyone has stepped up, no matter what. And the refs also missed some penalties that the Lions actually got away with. The Rams thought thought there should have been some penalties against the Lions too. So that evens the playing field of
At least one,
BS.
roughing the passer, you would think, because like I said, Stafford took a couple of big unnecessary shots in this game, which you would think any other quarterback takes those hits, they call a flag. But the refs, out to their credit, they let the players play in this one.
Wow, yeah, the Lions took it.
Especially that hit from Kirby Joseph on the Tyler Higbee. Now I know Stafford was up in arms and angry and pissed and trying to say, accuse Kirby Joseph of being a dirty player, because we know of the TJ Hawkinson play. That's exactly how
He made a mistake. That doesn't. But it's only one mistake.
But
To put
it's
it this
not really
way.
it's not really a mistake. It's a matter of what can Kirby Joseph do. He's playing within the rule. He's making as legal of a tackle he can possibly make, because he can't go up high, he can't hit him in the head, can't go for the neck, or the shoulders, and the chest. So what can you do? You can't. You gotta go else but low. Now, until they either make an adjustments of the rules and saying no, you cannot tackle here, or set up the better parameters of what is okay and how to make the right proper technique, what's okay to hit, what's not okay to hit. Until that happens, you're going to see situations like this happen, because what else can a defense do? Okay, the defense has already been shackled enough as is with these rule changes to benefit the offense more and more and more over the years. So for once, you're going to have to see a situation where that someone has to stick up for the defense. And frankly, like I said, Stafford wants to act indignant, but let's not forget the fact that he was the one who threw that pass to Higbee that got him into that situation. That's called a hospital pass. And Stafford should know damn better, because he was the one that was throwing those kind of passes all the time over the years when he was here, especially to Calvin Johnson. That was one big reason that Calvin decided to retire, because his health. And one reason why his health was deteriorating, because he was catching passes like that, because Stafford kept getting him killed all game.
I know.
The double coverage pass, the passes over the middle, the passes where Calvin's going to be in a vulnerable position to where he's going to get lit up even if he doesn't make the catch. So all those hits and the way that Calvin's body took that punishment, one way, thanks to how his quarterback was throwing passes, that led to his retirement. So, that's what we saw here in this game. Stafford was throwing passes. By the way, some of them were incredible. You can't deny it. Whether it be the no-look sidearm stuff that he was doing in the face of pressure, incredible stuff. But some of these passes, like I said, it put his receivers in that vulnerable position to begin with. So, like I said, Stafford, he wanted to embrace this villain role. That's what comes with the territory. So, I don't want to be hearing that type of attitude, and I don't want to be hearing about the fact that, they booed our kids. No, Kelly, they didn't boo your kids. Stop it. And if they
were they even there?
No, I'm just saying there was.
Or was it? Oh, they were there, but I think they were only intending to boo Matthew Stafford.
Yes.
I think.
If whatever they booed, it was about the matter of what Matthew Stafford represented for this game. I'm absolutely certain that this was.
It was only business. It wasn't personal.
Exactly. Of all the years and after everything that Stafford has been through for this team, and Stafford himself knew it. That's why some people were trying to take his comments after the game out of context, saying, he's happy for the players. Oh, well, he's not happy for the city. Of course he's happy for the city. But he's not going to say that admittedly after a hard-fought playoff game, because let's not forget, he has his own fans and team in LA that he has to play for now. And I'm pretty sure they don't want to be hearing him praising the other team's city or the other team after they kicked his ass. So it was a damned if you do, damned if you don't situation if you're Stafford. But no, nobody was booing your kids, Kelly. Stop it.
Right. But the game was close. The Lions won by just 1 point.
We expected it to be.
Yeah, just 1 point. So it was like the Lions still held the lead for like the entire game.
Yeah, but the tension was there. The tension was there because the offense was being stagnant. Credit to the Rams for making defensive adjustments, but also, speaking of adjustments, how about the fact that we did not hear Aaron Donald's name get called? Very little at all. So that was a testament to how that offensive line, Penei Sewell, Ragnow, Glasgow, Taylor Decker, Jonah Jackson, how wherever they put Aaron Donald, He did not wreck the game for them. Yeah, they gave up that one sack, but trust me, the main focus, as Dan Campbell was emphasizing, do not let Aaron Donald screw this game up for you, because he almost had one play where he got unblocked. It could have been potential danger. I think that was on that play where Goff had to throw the ball back in the lateral, so it was ruled as a fumble, but the Lions still recovered. But either way, that came as a result of not having Aaron Donald fully covered and blocked. They learned from that. They neutralized him, and you did not hear Aaron Donald's name for the rest of that night.
Exactly. They closed him out, didn't they? All right. So we're going to get to the Lions and Buccaneers at the end of this episode, but the Lions did activate linebacker James Houston today from the injured reserve, so
Yes,
he's going to play.
Now, in what capacity, we don't know. We don't know how many snaps he'll get. We don't know how they'll rotate him in with the rest of the depth, but that is an important name to know that is coming back from injury. We already got C.J. Gardner-Johnson back for the secondary. Now, this is a potential big boost for that defensive line and that pass rush, especially knowing how well Houston performed opposite Aiden Hutchinson last year in his rookie year as well.
Yeah. So, who stays at Michigan? Running back Donovan Edwards and linebacker Josiah Stewart. They stay at Michigan, of course. But J.J. McCarthy, Blake Corum, Roman Wilson, Chris Jenkins, and Junior Colson have all declared for the NFL draft, and we expected all this.
Yeah, those players were either seniors getting ready to graduate, or in the case of J.J., had very considerable high stock in their potential draft probability after winning the national championship. So it's not a surprise to see those players leave. Like the Cornelius Johnsons, the Sandra Stills, the Josh Wallaces. There are players on both that offense and don't forget that offensive line. They're going to be, as a tremendous loss, that whole starting group from Zinter and Keegan and Barnhart and Trente Jones and Drake Nugent. That's a lot of experience that's going to be leaving that team on that side, on that particular part of the field. So between the players that you had that was getting reps and getting experience for this year watching, as well as potential players that you could hopefully look to get from the transfer portal, it'll be very interesting to see how Sharon Moore, because remember, he is the offensive line coach. In addition to his many duties, he is the all-line coach. Very interested to see how he handles that unit, how that unit performs coming into next season. So that's on the offensive side, but on the defensive side, while they mentioned they lose those players that I mentioned before, there are some key guys that are coming back. Like a Will Johnson on the secondary, like a Makari Page or a Rod Moore, or on the D line or in the front seven. Well, guys like Mason Graham and Kenneth Grant and Josiah Stewart, and the fact that you're getting a portal transfer from Maryland and Jay Sean Barham. The players like that matters. In addition to what you're getting back on offense, not just Donovan Edwards, but Colston Loveland, Samaje Morgan, Tyler Morris. So those are key pieces and key contributors of your team that is coming back for one more go-around for next season. It all depends on a couple other key factors, namely who's going to be the head coach.
Yeah, and speaking of which, the Los Angeles Chargers and the Atlanta Falcons have recently requested to interview Michigan Wolverines football head coach Jim Harbaugh, the one and only.
I wouldn't say requested. I think they've already done and completed their interviews, especially in the case of the Chargers. And from apparent reports, now again, I think these are reports that should be taken with a grain of salt. I have not seen them being reported or being as corroborated as potential fact anywhere else. But long story short, according to this account I'm seeing on Twitter, I think it's at Michigan Nation 2, I believe that was the name was giving some updates, so to speak, over the past couple of days as to how things were going, Harbaugh's contract, what's going on. Now, again, I've not seen this being reported as anywhere else, so I cannot even take this at its face value. All I can do is take this with a grain of salt. But according to this account, things have gotten to the point where the Chargers may be starting to hone on in and zero in on getting Jim Harbaugh potentially to join them. And not only that, there's a good chance he may be bringing other people from the staff, whether it be Jay Harbaugh, whether it be, and this is a big one potentially again, it should be noted that this has not been reported anywhere else, but if this were to be true, Jesse Minter would also be in consideration as heading over as well as part of the staff. So I must stress the importance of that this has not been confirmed anywhere else outside of this account. So all I can do is go by what I'm seeing. But if it were to be confirmed, that'll be something to look back on. And I didn't want to say that, oh, we slept on this. No, but just in case, that's the info I have on my end as opposed to whether or not we'll be seeing an update on this Jim Harbaugh situation.
Yeah, I did run into a post on Instagram that the better odds are Jim Harbaugh is actually staying just a little bit over going to Los Angeles and a lot more over going to Atlanta. So
yeah, so it comes down to a matter of, does Harbaugh feel wanted? Does he want to stay? And does the school want him? So it comes down to an old philosophy. If I feel wanted and I want to stay, I'm staying. If I don't feel wanted, then that's another story. So it just comes down to that. And I've already said before, I'm at peace with whatever decision comes next, because Harbaugh did what he needed to do. He came out and accomplished in this season what were his main original goals, which was maintain established dominance in Big Ten, maintain established dominance over your rivals, especially Ohio State, win another Big Ten championship, and finally get the job done in the playoffs and win a national championship. You've done all that now. So what else is there left for you to do instead of, besides further establishing your legacy in Michigan and have everything set up to where your successor will know what to do? If they're at that point already where, hey, they feel confident where they could do something without Harbaugh next year, I will say best of luck to that, because that is a potential strong force that you're willing to just let walk away immediately after finally approaching or accomplishing the goal, the objective that you meant to set out to do all those years ago when you hired him. So very interesting choice or interesting timing to want to see that parting of ways after finally getting something such as momentous as this accomplished.
Yeah. That's pretty much it. How about those red hot Wings, huh? Winning 6 of the last 7 games. They sweep the West Coast. They get 1 point against the Edmonton Oilers, who unanimously outshot them in an overtime loss 3-2 at Little Caesars Arena. The Red Wings had to hang on to win 5-3 over the LA Kings to sweep them in the season series. And then they go to Florida. They beat the Panthers in overtime 3-2.
Yep, and thanks and the person who got the game winner and that in overtime was none other than the captain. So when you see other players starting to,
they beat Toronto. They beat the Maple Leafs in Toronto. Don't forget.
Yeah, exactly. So that was a 3 straight victory,
amazing
win streak that they were able to put together after that loss to Edmonton. Now, so like you said, Taylor, 6-0-1 in their last 7. That's a lot of points, a lot of key crucial points to be catching up on, especially as we're approaching the deadline and the All-Star break. So at this moment, they're sitting currently at 3rd place, I believe, in the Atlantic Division.
Yep, 3rd place in the not so Atlantic Division,
and the wild card spot.
Oh, the wild card spot that goes to Tampa Bay.
I don't know.
The records are there: 23-16-5 for Detroit at 51 points. Tampa Bay also at 51 points, but 23-17-5, one more regulation loss than the Wings. So that's the tiebreaker in points. The one regulation loss apart. The Red Wings have one less regulation loss, 16-17 for Tampa.
So at the moment, the Red Wings are currently in that wild card spot, or they're currently behind.
The Red Wings are ahead of the Lightning
for that second wild card spot.
The Lightning hold the
Well,
first playoff, the first wild card spot. Let me look that up right now. The Lightning and then the Maple Leafs at 21-13-8 with 50 points. The Capitals, Washington, 22-15-6 with 50 points. Yes, the Red Wings need to keep winning, of course.
so
They got to
again,
go to Carolina and then Tampa.
so it's Carolina, then Tampa, and the Red Wings are just outside looking in, correct?
Well, the Red Wings are in third place in the not so Atlantic division
I'm talking about, I
behind the
know, but
Florida
for the
Panthers.
wild card spot, the wild
The wild
card,
card.
yeah.
Yeah, the Capitals and Penguins are like the two teams that are on the outside looking in, but are close. Don't forget the New York Islanders, the New Jersey Devils, and the Montreal
Yeah,
Canadiens.
but I could, yeah, I know, but I could give a crap less about those other teams as long as the Red Wings are doing what they're supposed to do. They're within striking distance, correct?
Yep,
There you go.
exactly.
So between that, they need to just keep up the good job because you see now things are starting to fall into place. Patrick Kane's doing what he's supposed to do. The Brinket's doing what he's supposed to do. You're seeing guys like Raymond and Perron stepping up. Alex Lyon has been consistency, which is what you wanted to see with your goaltending, just consistency. So that way, your offense doesn't have to feel like they must score 5-6 goals every single game. No, sometimes getting 3 or 4 is enough. It should be enough at least. So when you have at least that comfort level of reliability in your goaltending, that's one benefit in your back pocket.
Yep, and the Red Wings are going to continue that East Coast trip without Patrick Kane. By the way, who got hurt, but
Mm,
but after that he'll be back.
well, like I said, the All-Star break's coming up and the trade deadline's coming up anyway. So
Yeah, the
good
Wings
time.
have to be buyers.
Oh yeah, I would have to absolutely, as long as they don't pull a redo of what they did last year, getting stomped out by Ottawa, like that type of situation, to where it would have Eisman thinking, yeah, it's not, this team's not ready yet. As long as that doesn't happen again this year, we'll be fine.
I as far as that's concerned, sorry to be too early on this. I think the Red Wings are ready. They just have to keep proving it.
We'll see.
Yep. Speaking of the Red Wings, Amazon agrees with Bally Sports, including Bally Sports Detroit, to stream multiple teams online, including the Red Wings, Pistons, and Tigers. The Tigers' 2024 regular season will be available on Amazon Prime Video, I believe, in addition to being televised on Bally Sports Detroit, along with the Red Wings and Pistons. Is that correct?
For as far as what I can from what I can tell, I know for a fact that Amazon will be, like you said, Amazon will be streaming the Tigers.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know about the Bally Sports part because I stopped investing in Bally Sports long ago. I know I am currently a subscriber to Amazon Prime, so knowing that you have this availability, like as if it's a free attachment or an add-on of sorts, um, very beneficial, very good to know, and convenient, I would say, in terms of wanting to catch up or at least study the team on a more in and out, day to day, weekly basis. And frankly, this is, if you don't have too many subscriptions already, like in terms of people that want to cut cable or cut the cord or cut back on their high cable bills, and but yet they still want to have key stuff like this. This is a great cost cutting value move, in my opinion. If you were to spend the $5-6 a month to get the Amazon Prime, and there you go, you can watch the Tigers, and then you also get the Red Wings and the Pistons eventually throughout the year. So I like this deal. And it gives Bally Sports, it gives Diamond, I should say, since they own Bally, chance to recoup some of their money, some of that money lost or whatever, while they're going through this bankruptcy process.
Yeah, I think that would be a smart, logical move. Smart, logical move. Now, the Lions, let's get back to them. 6.5-point favorites. Wow, against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
So it's growing.
I know. The Lions beat the Buccaneers 20-6 in the regular season in Tampa at Raymond James Stadium. Can the Lions do it again? It's the NFC Divisional Playoff round at Ford Field Sunday at 3 p.m. Eastern on NBC and Peacock. I believe Mike Tirico and Chris Collinsworth are calling that one because it's the only game this entire weekend being the only
By the
NFL
NBC
playoff
crew,
game
yes.
being televised on NBC and its online network Peacock. So let's have at it, shall we, Ed?
Well, frankly, Taylor, you got to look back in terms of looking forward to this match. You would have to look back at what went down in the previous matchup in Week 6, which was the first time these two teams matched. And frankly, it was a defensive battle that the Lions had to pull away from late, but they were able to do what they needed to do to get the win. They got to Baker Mayfield, made him look frustrated, got a couple turnovers out of him, or at least got a couple turnovers out of him. And the fact that they were to stop the run, which has been very key and essential to how the defense has been making strides and improvement versus from last year compared to this year. Stopping the run has been very essential because that was one aspect I forgot to mention against the Rams, because what they did against Karen Williams, who by the way has been running roughshod against some teams up and down throughout the majority of this season. I believe it was a stat where the Rams were 7-1 or 8-0 whenever Karen Williams had at least 80 yards or so rushing. The Lions held them to under that. So that was one big reason why the Lions were able to stifle the Rams offense, keep them one-dimensional. And even though they gave up plays in the secondary, they still able to buckle down, and get the stops in the red zone. So it's going to come down to the red zone again in this one, because this is a top 3 offense and red zone efficiency in the Lions going head-to-head against a top 3 defense and red zone efficiency in the Bucs. So between knowing what we see on red zone efficiency, knowing about what we know before of the Week 6 matchup of how the Lions dominated in terms of stopping the run, dominated on third down, and also knowing what they did last week against the Rams, what they have to repeat here in this one, winning the red zone efficiency battles, that and also turnover margin will be the absolute biggest keys to this game, because the Tampa defense, they've got about 23 or so takeaways for this season. And while Jared Goff did have a clean bill last game, he has had his fair share of turnovers since Week 11. And speaking of clean bills, let's talk about this. Let's not forget the fact that the Lions had to deal with their fair share of injuries to key certain players, not just before the game, but also during the game itself. There was no Brian Branch for that game, no Jahmyr Gibbs, no C.J. Gardner-Johnson, no James Houston. David Montgomery went out midway through that game. Remember, we had to use a third-string running backs and guys off the practice squad at one point. So that was how dire our
situation was.
Our situation was, but in terms of running back, but also just health to the team in general. I think Jonah Jackson was out for that one as well. So all those players that I just mentioned will be available for this game, as well as a Jameson Williams, who had a big touchdown catch against them in Week 6. He has more experience and more knowledge under his belt now. So I understand both teams are much different last time. This is a much different and a better Bucs team, but this is also a much different and a better Lions team that is able to, neutralize the pass rush, even though they got guys like Shaq Barrett and Vita Vea there. They neutralize the pass rush that likes to blitz, because we know Todd Bowles. We know what he likes to do. And he brought the blitz last time. Didn't seem to get too much having an effect on Goff, because he threw the ball for over 40 times and yet had 0 turnovers. So if you can repeat that recipe here, and you don't even need to have to throw it 40 times. You can do it 30, 35, mixing in your rushing attack. By the way, you're at home now. You're not at Tampa, and you're going to have the guys that I mentioned before, Jahmyr, Monty, Branch, CD, Houston, your offensive line at full capacity. As long as you do the things that I mentioned earlier, taking care of the ball, stopping the run, winning the battles on third down, and like I said, continuing that momentum of keeping up your efficiency in the red zone, both on offense and defense, should point to, in my opinion, not an easy win, but I would say a more comfortable win compared to what we saw last week against the Rams, because that was nothing but tension all throughout that game. So I would like to say, especially in comparison with the line in Vegas, which now it started at 6, now it's risen to 6.5. I would not be surprised if it raises to 7 before kickoff. My convention leads me to believe that the Lions should win this game. Excuse me. But will they cover is the more important question. I think the final score for this one is going to be, we'll go Detroit 28, Tampa 17. I think Detroit is going to get a late turnover, maybe a pick 6 or something, but they'll use that to pull away, and they'll get the job done. And I can't believe I'm saying this, but it's actually looking like a fair, good shot that we may be seeing the Lions next week from now, potentially, dare I say it, 60 minutes away from the Super Bowl. It's that possible. They still have to follow protocol, follow the key factors that I mentioned earlier, but it's still very much attainable to get done. And frankly, saying that after all that history of this team and this franchise and the organization, and seeing what I've witnessed this year already from this team and what I've witnessed earlier in the month from Michigan, wow. That's the one word to sum it all up as wow.
That would be a hell of a double treat on a silver
platter. I mean, like I said, I mentioned before earlier this year, I've been getting vibes of this is like the 2006 Tigers for me. That's the vibe I've been getting for watching this Lions team. And frankly, if however long this ride is going to go, if I can get that sense of completion that I got with Michigan, like I said, this season is already a success in my opinion. You win 12 games, you won your division, you won a home playoff game. You completed the objectives that I had personally set out for this season, that you and I had set out for this season, and then some. Whatever comes next, in my opinion, is gravy, because I feel you're starting to play with house money, especially if you take care of business and find yourself in a position to where you're either going to, or dare I say, are hosting the NFC Championship game. And frankly, knowing that after 3 years ago, knowing how this franchise was rock bottom 3 years ago, coming up to now, that's amazing. Simply amazing.
Yeah. Chris Pame predicts Lions 23, Bucks 20, but I'm going to go Lions 31, Bucks 21. By 10, you predicted by 11. I'll predict 10 to be fair.
Mm-hmm.
But
you did this. Are you expecting the same thing? You're expecting probably a close game, but the Lions will probably pull away late.
Maybe, yeah. Probably get yet another first down to ice it after a little icing on the cake scoring wise. But anyway, the winner of the Lions Buccaneers game will play either the Packers or the 49ers, either the Packers at home or the 49ers in San Francisco. Packers and 49ers, the first half of the NFC Divisional Playoff round is in San Francisco. The 49ers are 9.5 point favorites.
I'm going to be interested.
Saturday at 8:15 on Fox, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
And this is the situation that you're looking at if you're the Detroit Lions. It's gonna be a really steep hill to climb for the Packers, by the way.
It will, but if, like I say, if you're the Lions, if it comes to that situation where, hey, you got to go to Santa Clara to face San Fran, it should be It should come with a mental attitude of like, okay, and it's on for business, because I guarantee you, people weren't expecting him to walk in the Arrowhead and come out with a win. I guarantee you, people weren't expecting him to walk back in the Lambeau again and come out with another win. I guarantee you, people didn't expect him to clinch the division title on the road against the Vikings, but they did. And I guarantee you, people weren't expecting them to win this game against the Rams. You know why? Because damn near everybody in the media was picking the Rams, at least on ESPN for sure. So that blew up in their face. So now we'll have to see how they will address or give attention to how they may favor the Lions in this one. But if you're Detroit, you can't let that get to your head. You must be prepared. and that's going to be on Dan Campbell to get them prepared, and I believe he will.
Exactly. Yeah, you have to be prepared, win or lose, all grit, for sure. So, and if the Lions do make the Super Bowl, they would apparently have to go through the Baltimore Ravens, who are Super Bowl favorites.
Well, again, the Ravens have their own Sisyphean demons to exercise because, over the years we've seen great stuff happen for Lamar Jackson in the regular season, but what have we seen in the playoffs? Duds. So you still got so that's still that narrative that they need to change on that end. Not to mention the fact that until you knock out the Chiefs, they're still there. They're still the defending champions, and they still got Patrick Mahomes. So even though it's on the road, even though it's in Buffalo, the conditions may not be as ideal as you want. Until you knock them out, I can't put anything besides the fact that KC may still got another run in him. So that's what my gut is telling me.
Yep.
I would expect the AFC Championship to probably be KC in Baltimore.
I would, but yeah, and Chris is predicting the Houston Texans to upset the Baltimore Ravens. The Ravens are 9.5-point favorites against the Houston Texans. That's 4:30 Saturday on ESPN. By the way,
I got nothing but absolute love for CJ Stroud, and this is me. This is Mr. Wolverine giving props to a rookie Buckeye QB, right? So the fact that I'm praising CJ Stroud should tell you something of how I believe this young man has all the talent and the potential in the world, and he's been showing that to me to the fact that where I believe he will be the runaway winner for Rookie of the Year. It should be a landslide. And also it's at a point to where he could be a setup to where him in this division, in this AFC South division, it could be his to rule for quite a while. It's not quite the Jordan, it's a little bit different, but similar to how we see things with Jordan Love. But I think with CJ Stroud, he is in a position for sure to where this division could be his to rule for a long time.
Yeah. And then you got the Chiefs and Bills 6:30 on CBS on Sunday.
Listen, no matter who wins that game, that should be another classic because we've seen those two teams for the past two times in the playoffs go absolute toe to toe and just try to drop bombs on each other to try and knock each other out. So I'm expecting another down to the wire nail biter between those two teams for this one.
All right, well, and we're going to keep our eyes on all those games. By the way,
hey, final eight. We're this is the phase of the tournament where you're in the Elite Eight, so the field is getting more narrow. So you're one step closer.
Yes. So, what all did we learn in this week's episode?
We learned, frankly, that the Detroit sports fan has been waiting on a moment and experience like this for so long, and they got that handsome reward. We learned that it could be a slight chance that the Jim Harbaugh era may very well be ending at Michigan. We learned that the Red Wings are proving themselves to be a potential sneaky playoff contender. And we learned that now Tiger fans and in that essence, also Red Wing fans and Pistons fans will have a much more accessible way, in my opinion, in terms of how they want to be able to view their favorite sports teams without having to pay an astronomically high cable bill.
I know that is so on target right there. I'm willing to pay a cheaper price for online services rather than cable, which is cheaper than cable.
Yeah, especially for over the top streaming. Yeah, for sure. Like if you're willing to pay enough for a Netflix subscription or a Hulu, what's to stop you from throwing down an extra $5 or $6 or $7 and saying, hey, I get these, I can get all the sports teams that I want for just a low price.
Yeah. So I've learned that the Lions proved themselves to win a playoff game for the first time since January 5th of 1992. They had to win it by the hair of the chinny chin chin. Their offense just needs to pick up where they left off in the first half and just rejuvenate themselves. of course, their defense has to step up as well. So both offense and defense have to play 60 minutes of football against those Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And then they have to play 60 again against either Green Bay or San Francisco, and then the Super Bowl if they win that one, so on and so forth. So that is another episode of the Michigan Sports Truth Podcast. Follow the Michigan Sports Truth Podcast on X, formerly Twitter, and Instagram at Michigan_Truth, and like its Facebook page. Subscribe to its YouTube channel at the Michigan Sports Truth Podcast. Like our videos and turn on all notifications on the bell icon, and follow it and listen to it in audio form on Spreaker. Follow me on X, TikTok, and Instagram and YouTube at DT2Phillips. Follow Ed Smith on X, Instagram, Twitch, and YouTube at EdSmith313. Personal shout out to Chris Pomey of Live with CDP on WQEE, the Key 99.1 FM in Atlanta, Georgia, WQEE FM.radio12345.com. At Chris Pomey on Instagram, at Chris D. Pomey on X, at Live with CDP on TikTok, and Chris Pomey on Facebook. Business shout-outs go to Athletical Physical Therapy on Woodward and Ferndale, the B4 Foundation, Burke's Waterfront Restaurant in Cadillac, Cali Tickets. Call Mark Goldman at 877-225-8425. That's 877-225-8425, or visit CaliTickets.com. Creative Embroidery of Cadillac for designing the Michigan Sports Truth Podcast logo on my long sleeve shirt and t-shirt. Cuts by Melanie in Lake City. Let's roll with it. Rolled ice cream. This week's flavor of the week is creamsicle cotton candy. Very delicious. Follow them on TikTok.
Creamsicle seems fitting since the Lions are looking to be facing Tampa.
Heck yeah. Continuing on, but following them on TikTok at the Food Mafia LLC, and on Instagram at the Food Mafia Rolled Ice Cream. Northern Star Event Rentals in Cadillac, 231-884-8195, and on Facebook, Union Barber in Birmingham, United Food Service Solutions of Grand Ledge, Michigan, and United Mobile Power Wash and Dry Ice Works in Southfield. Our next episode, next Thursday at 10:30 p.m.-ish or later. For Ed Smith, I'm Taylor Phillips. Another episode of the Michigan Sports Truth Podcast in the can, signing up. And remember, we observe and detect the truth about Michigan sports because the truth is out there. Stay alert, everyone. TTFN, ta-ta for now. Hit them with a hind. See you next week.
Take care, everybody. Go Lions.
Go Lions.